The moon's always been my favorite thing in the sky.
Science writer Rebecca Boyle has a soft spot for the moon.
I think for a lot of people, it's like taken for granted. It's this sort of humdrum thing, and galaxies and nebula and, stars and planets are more intriguing for people, but the moon is very weird.
In all our searching of the cosmos, we've seen other planets with moons, but we've never seen another moon quite like ours.
The other rocky planets don't even really have moons. Mercury has no moon. Venus has no moon.
Mars does have moons, but they're nothing like our big, white, round planet of a moon. Our moon is huge compared to the size of the Earth, like almost a quarter of the size of our planet. That makes our moon the 5th biggest moon in the entire solar system. And our giant, weird moon is one of the biggest mysteries in planetary science.
We have no idea why the moon is here, and it's the moon. It's not like this is some strange, faraway thing. It's the moon.
The mystery of how we got our moon unfolds into an epic tale. A strange, world-bending apocalypse of mythic proportions. I'm Meredith Hodnott, and this is Lost Worlds, a new series from Unexplainable, exploring scientific mysteries buried in the deep, deep past. This week, how did we get our moon?
The vast majority of the surface of the moon is an orthosite.
Scientists thought, at one point, the moon could have been a giant magma ocean. And in order for the moon to have been this floating magma ocean in space, there needed to have been some sort of cataclysm. Something that poured so much energy into the moon that it literally melted. This and other evidence meant that the moon couldn't have been created by the slow smushing of dust and crumbs over millions of years like scientists originally thought. There had to have been some epic, violent event.
It's always neat when a paradigm gets challenged and crushed, and suddenly all the possibilities of the new idea occur to you. Then you go racing after that idea. It's really neat.
So scientists started to piece together a new story about the formation of the moon. The giant impact hypothesis. Science writer Rebecca Boyle is going to help me walk through this story. So, once upon a time, some 4 billion years ago, there is a small rocky planet, which scientists named Theia, after Greek mythology.
Theia is the mother of the Greek goddess of the moon.
Theia was probably the size of Mars, a little smaller than Earth, and floating in the same general orbit.
But that's not a big enough location for 2 planets. And so gravity would have brought them together. This collision was inevitable. And it would have been the worst day in the history of Earth.
These skeletal remains of Theia burned magma hot and then cooled into our bright white moon. Since the 80s, the giant impact hypothesis has become the story of moon formation among the planetary science community. And as our examination of the Apollo moon rocks got deeper, scientists hope to get a better understanding of Theia, because planets, depending on where and when they form in the solar system, will have different chemical signatures. So Mars rocks will look different from Earth rocks that look different from Venus rocks.
Because they formed in different locations around the sun at slightly different times, they look different enough chemically that you could tell them apart.
So if the moon formed from the molten core of Theia, then the rocks from the moon should look like rocks from another planet. The moon should look like Theia, chemically speaking.
If the moon is the remains of this world, Theia, it should look like that world. And it doesn't. It looks like Earth.
As scientists looked deeper and deeper into the Apollo lunar samples, these rocks revealed one mystery after another. First, the rock's geology told us a story of 2 worlds colliding, an impact between the early Earth and another planet altogether, Theia. But when scientists went looking for evidence of Theia in the chemical composition of these moon rocks, they found that the moon and the Earth, they looked the same.
They look very much like the same stuff. Like you just kind of had one clump of material and then you pulled off part of it.
Science writer Rebecca Boyle has been fascinated by this missing planet, the lost world of Theia. And she's talked to scientists from around the world who've been trying to come up with new theories of how we got our moon and what happened to Theia. One idea is that the giant impact was much more epic than we ever could have imagined. So let's rewind the tape of the giant impact hypothesis. Once upon a time, there was a rocky planet called Theia.
Theia is the mother of the Greek goddess of the moon.
Theia was a planet about the size of Mars, in the same orbit around the sun as the Earth.
But that's not a big enough location for 2 planets. And so gravity would have brought them together.
Wild gravity earthquakes. The truth is, we may never find Theia, or get the full story of how we got our mysterious, gigantic moon. But scientists continue searching because these epic moon creation myths, they lead to even deeper, more epic questions about our moon and about us.
I would like to know why. Like, why do we get it? Why is it here? And why does it not exist somewhere else? And how rare is that? How rare is this collision between a Theia and an early Earth that leads to this particular moon and this particular planet we live on? It might be really, really uncommon. And that might be a unique situation in the entire broader cosmos.
Getting our giant moon might be the luckiest thing to have ever happened to this planet. It's shaped every age of the Earth. And it's even thought that without the moon, there would be no life on Earth as we know it.
Don't you want to know? What led to us? Like, why here? Why now? Why nowhere else? We have yet to find in our very, very detailed, desperate searching anything else like us, anywhere else like this. And I think the moon is a huge reason why.
So, let's start in the early primordial oceans of Earth. The moon's massive size means its gravity pulls our oceans towards the sky and gives us the tides. The water bulges out to follow the orbit of the moon.
If life began in the oceans, which is most people's theory, in some, hydrothermal vent, deep ocean fissure in the Earth's crust, then the moon's tides would have mixed the water in such a way that it would have eventually dragged those early primitive life forms around and moved them and pushed them and brought them closer to continental shelves where they would have colonized the seafloor.
More millions of years, and the life in the moon's tides reached the shore.
So the ancestors of all land animals, everything that walks with a backbone, began as fish, and the moon probably played a role in bringing them to shore.
This episode was reported and produced by Meredith Hadenat. It was edited by Catherine Wells, with help from Brian Resnick and Noam Hassenfeld, who scored the episode with Meredith. Unexplainable is part of the Vox Media Podcast Network.